Hi, guys. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi. I am joined here today with Jill Eickmann. Jill Eickmann is Leela's co-founder and director of corporate training. She is a San Francisco Bay Area arts leader, entrepreneur, trainer, and community builder with over 20 years working in diverse roles, settings, industries, including corporate training, mental health, children and family support services, event planning, arts administration, and education. She is responsible for all sorts of client communication and managing Leela's team building offerings and professional training from design to delivery. She has had numerous backgrounds in acting and psychology, and she's also an in-demand psychotherapist who continues to research and teach the psychological implications and therapeutic benefits of improvisations. Jill, you are incredible. For those of you who do not know, Jill's actually my cousin, and I've seen her transform from the ground up the levels of building a business and digging into the improv community and just supporting the arts for all of these years. So welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
My secret social media advisor. So thank you for all your help over the years. Yeah.
Yes, anytime, anytime. More help coming. So
Yay.
how are you doing today?
Doing okay. Yeah. It's like feeling like fall finally in the Bay Area. Like we don't get much season changes, but today was like woke up and it was kind of cold and we turned the heater on, so that was nice. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's exciting. Yeah, I know since we're back in Indianapolis, it's like, ooh, the leaves are crunching, the heat's kicking on, like it's time to have a fire. So I'm totally getting all of those fall vibes going on.
Yes, yes, I should show my coffee cup too. Yes.
Ooh, nice. Almost matching today.
I know. Mine's like a teal, like a light teal blue. What color is that? A white? White cup?
Yeah, it's like an off-white one, but
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
We've
Yeah.
got all sorts of them here at the house. So let's dive in a little bit. You are a co-founder of Leela. You created this with your husband.
Yeah.
And not only do you guys do improv shows, but you also have a teaching and learning community. And then you also have another section of team building and leadership with big name companies that we all know.
Yeah.
You've worked with Google and YouTube and Facebook, if I'm right. Have you worked with? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all across the board. You want to tell us a little bit more about like how you got started and how you've seen it grow over the years?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so my husband and I moved out to San Francisco in 2002. Yeah, 2002. And when we moved out here, I moved out here to go to grad school. So there was a school in San Francisco, or still is a school in San Francisco, called California Institute of Integral Studies. And they are like one of maybe two or three schools in the country that have masters in drama therapy. So, I kind of grew up as a theater geek, theater kid, always wanting to be on stage and got my theater degree. But after I graduated, I moved to New York and I was just still like craving like just the therapeutic aspect of theater and improv. I got involved with Upright Citizens Brigade in New York. If anybody's familiar with that, it's a like an improv comedy school in New York. But there wasn't like it was. I learned a lot about comedy, which was so much fun. But
Uh,
that like connection aspect that I felt like theater and improv just gave me. And I was just like, how do I unpack that? Like, how do I study that? I was just really curious about it. So that's why I went to grad school for drama therapy, with the goal of just being like having like a more like holistic approach to improv. This is the most holistic school in the country, California Institute of Integral Studies. And just thinking very mind, body, spirit about how you approach psychology and therapy. And so I was like, yeah, this feels like a good fit. So while I was going through school, I was like, I really want to apply some of these things that I'm learning in real life and not just study it theoretically,
right.
right? So my husband, Chris, was like, he likes to tinker with like websites and he likes to just like create infrastructure for projects. So he's like, let me build you a website and like we'll teach some classes. And I was like,
Uh,
okay, let's do it. So we just started just teaching classes, and sometimes one person would come, and sometimes five people would come, and sometimes eight people would come, and I just started just experimenting and trying some of these ideas out, of like kind of how to approach improv and theater from like a more holistic approach. Yeah, yeah.
And as you said, like it starts with that one person and it builds from there. I've been to one of your drop-in classes and like there were 30 people there. So over the years, and then I've seen your classes like sell out. And, so now you come into these new subsects, but a big thing right now is a lot of us are going through these life transformations and transitions of like, we're being forced in a direction to start something new. And it's very important not to forget that, we all start at the bottom at different times. As hard as it is to see, we play that comparison game of like, well, so and so is over here with 100,000 followers and they're getting brand deals or they're getting speaking deals or their classes are being booked out. When in reality, if you look back and you unpeeled all of the layers, they went through the same phase that you're going through right now. So like you've stuck with it, you've seen how it's changed over the years. And I feel like this gives inspiration to anybody who's starting out. Like, you have to start from somewhere.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's so much of what you just said. I'm like nodding my head. Yes, yes, yes. Like as a business owner, like, for anybody who's been in business longer than like 6 months, like there's ups and downs. There's always ups and downs. It's not like, an immediate hit and then you're a gazillionaire. You got to go through.
Right.
Yeah, you got to go through these trials. And I think what's kept me humble over the years is definitely been those bombs and, those moments of feeling like I'm comparing myself. But something in improv and in comedy is the bomb, is like embracing the bomb. I haven't studied stand-up comedy, but I know a lot about it.
Uh-huh.
So much of stand-up comedy is definitely like celebrating the bomb. So like when you totally bomb on stage, like you're actually looking to bomb.
So then you can like explode from there. Like what doesn't work.
Exactly. And it's really cool. Like I've talked to some stand-up comedians, there's like, they'll have their set list of like their jokes that they want to try out. And they'll actually like they'll try something and see how the audience reacts. So it's like market research. I mean,
Right.
in this context, it's just like, oh, let me do this joke about, when I was hanging out with my family and I'm Jewish and oh, that's not landing with the audience. Okay, let me try this joke about like being a Gen Xer. Ah, okay, I got a Gen X audience. That's cool.
Right.
Like, so it's just like it's market research. Like who is your audience? What's sticking with them? And just like changing. And I also think it's really important that I've learned is it's not just about like appealing to the crowd or appealing to the market, but it's both. It's like making sure that it's true for you and you like resonate it and it feels good for you and it hits with an audience. It's got to do both. Yeah.
Yeah, hands down, this is totally true. So one, you have to be authentic and yourself with your message, because if that's not there, then the message isn't going to stick with anybody. And then you have to feel how it's reacting to your audience and customer base. So this is not only for the acting world, but anybody who is trying to make a brand known right now. You got to reverse engineer, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, of your ideal customer and how you're going to reach them. And then also like make sure it's still true to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was trying to say something else. Oh, about like transforming during these times, right? Like the
Yes.
online platform. I still remember there was like a couple months before the pandemic started, a student of mine who was like worked in the tech world. And I think he worked for like Kaiser, some kind of health company. I can't remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me out for coffee and he was like, I want to pick your brain about this idea that I have about doing online improv. And I was like, ugh. I was like, gross.
What are you talking about? I don't want to have any part of it.
And I sat with him and I talked with him and I was like, hey, listen, I don't want to like poo poo your idea, but like I really believe that improv is about being in person in real time. And I felt like so much of Leela's success in the Bay Area, in the like San Francisco tech hub, was it was giving people a place to interact in real time because everybody is behind screens all day. And there were so many people who just did not have any social skills in talking, right? So I would
Right.
actually have like the reason why I got so many corporate gigs is I had managers who would reach out to me and be like, "Hey, my engineers, they don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to do a public, presentation. You know, we need help." you know?
Right.
And
They
so,
can type
yeah,
it out, they can, but when it
mhm,
comes to those interactions and those connections, you're
right.
right. Like it's not there when, especially, and then
Yeah.
we're going into this as well. I don't know if you're going to hit it. Sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting, but like
No, no worries.
we're hitting this with remote working as
Yes.
well right now,
Yeah.
is the lack of connection.
Right. Right. And so like when I was talking to him, I was like, "Oh, gross. Like, I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of like communities that don't have improv and we're really trying to reach out to these other communities and like just give them like small little skills, to practice some things and connect online because some people they can't connect in person. They have to connect online." I was like, you know, okay, here's some ideas, that are coming to mind, but ooh, gross.
Right.
I personally would never teach an improv class online. I remember telling him that. Never, you know? And then when this all happened, I was just like, what? Oh my God, like our business, it's done. Like this is my family's livelihood. It's a family business now. This is what we do, and I don't want to lose it. So it came from this place of like I have to learn how to adapt online or my business is done because I don't know how long this is going to last. Like I got to be prepared for the worst.
Right.
So yeah, Chris was just like, here, let me, like, Chris, who always does all the infrastructure and all the production elements, he's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, Jill. I'm going to figure out Zoom. I'm going to figure out how to do this, how to do the whole infrastructure of teaching classes online, technically, and then you come up with some lesson plans and you teach them. I was like, okay, let's go. And we just, every day, I think for 2 weeks, I taught an improv class online for free, and it was just like, and I kind of sold it as like an online gathering, online improv
Hmm.
community gathering. I was like, here's an opportunity for us to connect as just human beings, just check in, and also learn some improv skills. And just like full transparency, I've never taught an online improv class before, so I'm learning too, and that's why it's free, and
Right.
please give me any feedback, like what worked, what didn't work for you, So I did that every night for 2 weeks, and I learned a ton. I learned a ton. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I learned, and I remember talking to another improv teacher about this, because he was experimenting online
Hmm.
too. He was like, Jill, like really figure out all the features of Zoom. You know, all the different features, like rather than see them as challenges, see them as like games,
Ooh, nice.
creative what's the word I'm looking for, like constraints, like creative
Hmm.
constraints. So like see how you can play with the start video, stop video, see how you can play with the mute button, see how you can play with like all the different features of Zoom, the renaming feature, can you play with that, like all these different features, and come up with like original games, original improv games that people can play with. So that was a huge like, I'm inspired now. Like I just felt
Right.
as an artist, I was like a creative constraint. I get that. And I'm going to just play with it. And I just like, just ideas started pouring out of me. And I just kept on trying stuff. And it's been really fun. It's been super fun. Yeah.
And that is amazing. And I know I've followed different thought leaders and everybody before, and there's this huge camp of, you gotta work for free and put yourself out there on different forms. And so this is a true testament to you as well. Like you're a stable entrepreneur, growing business, and yet you still have to do the free work for those 2 weeks
Right.
until you really figure out what's going. And that transition that you've made is incredible because now you're doing like all of your classes online
Yeah.
and improv teaching online and drop-in classes online, and you figured it out. It may not be seamless right now,
Right.
but you've 100% figured out, and in a sense figured out the game
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and the game of business.
Right. And it helped my confidence too. Like in order to really sell a team building class to a company, a company like Google or Facebook, I got to know what I'm talking about, like I got to be like, this is how it works online. If I'm like worried about it and scared about it, that's going to come across. So I need practice.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, that energy comes across. And even though we're not having face-to-face interactions, even in whether it's improv or day to day, if you're sitting behind a screen doing remote work all day, or you're just by yourself, I've had friends, one of my good friends is in Madrid, and like we talked during the pandemic, she's like, I haven't seen an outside person for like weeks on end because she was living by herself. And I'm like, that boggles my mind. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, one of the biggest blessings over this time for myself is being able to spend time with family. And even though it's not like close friends with us, but like having family and having that interaction has been key. 'Cause I'm a people person. Like, everybody knows, like, Bobbi's going to the coffee shop. She's going to come home with 12 friends today. And it's totally true. And that's one of the things I'm like going on runs in Texas. And I'm like, okay, I need one of these random meetings. Like, where's the inspiration coming from today? And come home from a run and be like, oh, I saw this couple today. I saw that one. Like, I don't know their names yet, but I see them every day. Give me 2 more days and I'll meet them.
Yeah, I feel
But
so similar. I'm such an extrovert too. Like, so this has been like a really hard time for extroverts right now. Yeah, yeah.
right. But then like you innovate, and that's why I started this show. It's like I can reach so many more people,
Right.
bring your story to life. The other day I had people on from India and guests on, and the UK. So those meetings would have cost thousands of dollars for me to pay for travel to get there. Whereas the ingenuity of just like, okay, I've got this phone, what can I do with it?
Right, right. And really milk it, like milk the possibilities. Yeah.
Right. And the possibilities are endless. So, with that being said, have you started to see a reach of Leela and Leela students outside of the Bay Area?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm starting to play in the global field too. So I just recently did a show this past Saturday. I got invited to do a show with the World of Improv. So it
Tell
sounds
us more.
monolithic. The World of Improv. And a man by the name of Assad Khan. I think he's from Mumbai. Yeah, Mumbai.
Okay.
He's a part of Improv Mumbai. He invited me to play, and he was, you know, I loved his spirit because he was just like, "Hey, I want to see more improvisers playing across the world." Like, I found some people online that I really respect as improv people that I've just been following
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, and I just put them on some teams. Jill and this other guy, his name's Keith Williams from North Carolina. He's like, "Will you guys be the co-captains of your team?" And I was like, "Sure." And everybody was just like, "Yes, yes, yes." And then we just did a show on Saturday, and my group. We were called Across the Pond because it was a collection of improvisers from UK and USA.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and we just had such a blast. We came up with an original improv format. We performed it. It was an hour-long show. Yeah, it was just so much fun, and streamed it live on YouTube, and it was just like a really fun experience of like, let's just try something. Why not? Yeah, yeah, super fun.
That is exciting. And that's something that you wanted to have done previously. Like, yes, you've traveled to improv festivals, you've
Yeah,
gone different places for it,
yeah.
but for a one-off thing for Assad to reach out and be like, you know what, I have this idea. You want to come to India? And you're like, I got a company to run. I've got a daughter, a husband. Like, who's going to run the rest of the business?
Right.
Like, let me just go take a quick international flight to India.
Exactly.
And like some of these things, you know, you would have been like, yeah, I don't think so. I'll pass on this opportunity.
Right.
And today you're like, okay, well, you know, this is possible. There is a way to make this work.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So with that, and you've started to say also that more people, have you seen like after doing the worlds of improv,
Oh,
have you
right.
seen
Yeah.
like more international people come over to the Leela site or come to your drop-ins or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. I mean, I think at the beginning, when this all started, we had a lot more folks just like trying stuff and come into different drop-in classes, and I found it kind of interesting because it was mostly other teachers, like other improv teachers
Mm-hmm.
or improv business leaders who were trying to figure it out as well. So they would come to my drop-in class and, what's she doing? Let's see if I can learn something.
Right.
So I think we had a lot more international people at the beginning. But I haven't noticed recently. I am a part of a Facebook group called Improvisational Theater, like worldwide players, and I've gotten some hits from that. Like people have come to my class, but I think specifically like with our time zone, the Pacific,
Um,
I think is not super friendly with a lot of different time zones. So, we've thought about maybe offering it at different times. I don't know. One of our big things business wise we've been trying to do is try to stay as consistent as similar as we were in person, you know
okay.
so that way it's like an easy transition. But it could be another offering at a different time zone. I don't know, I haven't quite thought about that. So I guess the answer to your question is yes, we've had some some international folks, but mostly Bay Area or
Okay.
Pacific time zone. Yeah.
And with your classes right now, since you've
Mhm.
transitioned from in-person to Zoom classes, now are you, since you do like, for those of you who don't know, Leela has a variety of levels of improv classes. So if you're beginner, you have to start at the beginning level.
Right.
And if you're coming in advanced, you're like, well, I don't want to start at the bottom. And then you start higher up.
Yeah.
But for these teachings, are you doing it 100% live, or are you starting to transition into a platform like Teachable or Masterclass to
Mm,
have these like recordings
yeah.
already and then have like group times to meet?
Yeah, we haven't tried that yet. No, everything we've done has been, what do they call it? Synchronous rather than asynchronous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, everything we've done has been synchronous learning, and I think that's just been like a huge belief of mine of like improv is all about the act of doing it and being in the moment and like
Right.
experiential learning, right? Um, it's like you could go read a book about improv, which is great. I have a lot of books about improv, but what we as Leela want to offer is just like the real time, the experience. Yeah. So I haven't
And
done that yet, but you're giving me ideas.
yes, it might be something to look at. And it's something that could also help other people if you're in a different time zone or you want to learn at your own pace, but then also have the added benefit of whether it's a specific Facebook group and you're going to have meeting times, and then that's where you really get to play and engage.
Yeah. We do have an improv Facebook group, and that's something maybe after this coffee we can chat about. But I've been trying
Yeah.
to do my best to get more engagement in that community group. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, just like, you gotta fail and learn from it, right? But I do some like little like let's play an improv game, like
Mm-hmm.
let's tell a story one word at a time, and then people would comment one word at a time until we create a story. So that's or post a fun meme, or when everybody's started playing with avatars on Facebook, like give us your avatar,
Right.
yeah, make your avatar and post it, so that's been fun to just keep our community going. And I've been trying to think of just other ways to connect with the community online in that way
And
that's not a
that's
pop class, but it's still,
right.
yeah.
And that's something different that we're not seeing every day from like companies and groups, is that engagement of just, bringing joy to somebody's life. And I know I've been preaching this on Instagram and here on Facebook as well, but joy is contagious.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a fan of Gabby Bernstein's work, but
Oh, sure. Yeah.
yeah, she's amazing. But
Okay.
I was recently on one of her webinars and she was like, the joy that you have is absolutely contagious. It just keeps going. And, we all celebrate. Yeah, we've got
I
kitchen
love
lunchtime going on, work at home life. Yeah. Real life. This is what's happening, people. So your joy is contagious, and a lot of times we've been seeing where people like want to hold back their personal joys because they see that their friends are going through a harder, more difficult time, and they don't see it like, if I celebrate this, then it's going to make Susie mad, or Susie's going to look at it and be like, oh, I don't know, like,
Right.
why are they celebrating, like, don't they see what I'm going through here? And the joy that we have in life is contagious. So if you're sharing it, whether it's in a Facebook group or starting something that'll make people think or bring humor to their life, or be like, oh, this is what it was like again to have that improv in my life once a week or twice a week. And then they'll start sharing that with friends, and their friends are going to be like, oh, well, you know what? Like, this happened to me too. And it made me really happy.
Mhm.
And it just goes on and on. So as a whole and a collective, I've seen a lot of people suppressing their joys. But
Yeah.
if we start bringing that back, then we're going to start getting that higher energy level and
Yeah.
so forth coming out.
Totally interesting. Yeah, yeah. I see that in our improv classes too, when people are like, fully expressing themselves, and then they're like, oh, I can't do that, Um, and especially with corporate team building, like that's something that often I'm kind of like the surrogate or the
Right.
the midwife for people expressing joy at work, because I think that that's another thing, is like I have to hide my real self at work for whatever reason, that feeling like I have to just be productive and not be myself. And I feel like in the Bay Area we have a lot of companies that are big cheerleaders for being yourself, which is great.
Right.
But it doesn't happen at all companies, and when people experience that, when they experience improv, I truly believe that spontaneity is the path to authenticity. Because if you're just doing non-edited, like first response impulses, you're going to be yourself, like if
Yep.
you're not pre-calculating what you're going to say to make sure that it's likable by others, and you're just spitting it out, then you're going to be yourself. You can't hide from yourself in those moments.
Right.
You just are. And when people experience that with their team that they work with, it's just like, oh, this feels so good. Can we do this again together?
Right.
I don't want to not be myself anymore with my team, because that experience felt so good, you know? Yeah.
And that, like, you hit the nail on the head on that. And why I laugh is because, like, I've learned, like, I don't work in standard office environment because that just is like prison sentence to me. And I know you're the same way. So like when I hear that of like just suppressing your natural self,
Yeah.
it's just makes me want to scream and run the other way because I'm
Right.
like, this does not feel natural. I don't want to be involved with it. Don't make me go there.
It makes me
And,
icky.
right. Like, dude, it's just let me pack my suitcase and load it up in the van and I'll go run an event and just be my happy self.
Right, right.
So,
Exactly.
yes. And when you can bring that to life
Yeah.
to others who have never experienced that before,
Yeah.
and I say never because I know for a fact there's a lot of people who like have this other idea of like, this is my work person, and then here's my true person that I am at home and with friends and family, and it's quite divided. Whereas I believe as a whole, like, you should be the same person. Like, why do you have this secondary self of yourself that's like, I never do this, and then you go home and you do just what you said that you never do before. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and like another, foundational rule of improv is like extreme support. So if, in a beginning level improv class, as well as the corporate training I do with anybody who's never taken an improv class, like the fundamental thing, and it takes about an hour to get people to
Mhm.
just practice this one skill, which is doing the first thing that comes to mind, just like go for it, your impulse, and then everybody else extremely support that person in expression, right? In expressing that impulse and like vocally and enthusiastically
Mhm.
supporting it. So what happens is you get this kind of like feedback loop of like, oh, okay, I did that, I did that, and I did that, and my team still supported it. So I guess I can do this too. And I guess I can
Right.
do this too because so far they've kept supporting me, right? So, in the Bay Area tech world, like I make the argument in the case of like, you want to learn how to be innovative, which is Silicon Valley, like do improv, right? Because the more that your team supports your ideas and the initial impulse, the knee jerk response is yes, the more your team is going to take risks, right? Because they're going to feel safe to take risks and express
Mhm.
risks, right? So I guess what I don't know where I'm going with the answer to the question. It's like it's a two-part equation. You need both. It's not just you going, here's my idea, I'm confident. It's making sure that you get that feedback from your team or the people that you're with at work, whatever, that you get that support or it's not going to work. Yeah.
Exactly. And the support is key. Like, no matter what you do in life,
Hmm.
whether you're an artist, whether you're in the Bay Area working Silicon Valley tech, whether you have a new idea as a teacher
Yeah.
and you're trying, like, you need the support of the parents or your students, and then you also need the support of the other teachers around you, especially if you're doing something that's outside of the norm.
Yeah.
And any field, like, you're not only preaching to like Silicon Valley and the tech world on this
Yeah.
leadership, team building. This is like every day we all need the support. We all need to feel loved. We need to see that joy. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, here's my idea.
Right.
What do you think of it?
Yeah.
Or like, will you support me in this venture?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's something that a lot of us need to be able to ask of others and feel confident and supported.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Another like thing that I've been doing these days with our online classes is we've been doing like some 4-week specialty classes.
Mm-hmm.
Just to like rather than our normal 6-week level classes, like, oh, what's something that we can specifically do on the online platform and market to a large group of people. And I was like, I want to make sure that these classes speak to what we're all experiencing right now, and maybe like a skill that could use some practice and change the world, so like,
Right.
and like help us like get out of the situation right now. So I taught a 4-week class called support moves because I was like, hey, what's the fastest way for us to get out of this experience? Like
Mm-hmm.
wear a mask and like support each other, donate to
Right.
causes that need some help right now. Like, we need to stop thinking so selfishly. And a great skill for improvisers that we practice at Leela is support impulses. Like making sure that not only are we coming from an impulsive place, but it's not just impulsive, it's supportive impulse. So
Oh,
every time that we're spontaneous, we're making sure that we're coming from other focus, which is making sure that we're supporting the other players on stage. Right. So I did a whole 4-week class on support moves. And at the beginning of the class, I was like, okay, let's do a quick check in. How have you supported others today? you know?
right.
you know?
And that's the accountability that we need in our life.
Yeah. Because I really believe that, the best improvisers that I've seen are kind of the best human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's these improv skills of like being spontaneous and support moves, support impulses, like they come more naturally on the improv stage if that's just who you are. You don't have to like learn a whole new rubric of being a human, because you just
Right.
are that human. You already are that human, right? Or you've practiced being that human.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, integral, like doing it on the improv stage and then doing it out in the life, like it all bleeds together. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Jill, do you have any books or podcasts that have like really helped you during this time, or maybe it's a favorite one that you've had in the past that's also applicable to today for somebody?
Hmm. haven't been listening to many podcasts lately. But recently I've been getting into Wayne Dyer, you know.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, like the attraction stuff.
Yeah.
And I just listened to an interview with him. I can't remember where it was, but what I was so struck by is I don't know if you know much about his background, but he was like an orphan. He was in an orphanage, and had like a really tough life as a kid, but just always had this like resiliency, right, inside of him of like, I'm just gonna make it work. I'm just gonna do
Hmm.
something about it, right? So he's kind of somebody who's really studied like resiliency and tapping into your own resiliency. So that just really spoke to me right now, like what we're all dealing with. Yeah.
For sure. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that as well. Like I've listened to some of his work as well. So yes,
Yeah.
go listen to that. If you guys are like, I don't know, this sounds crazy. My life is awful right now. Go check out Wayne Dyer.
Mhm.
It'll help
Totally.
for sure.
Yeah.
Jill, was there anything else that you would like to share with the audience today before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess I could like plug too, like another Facebook Live that I've been doing, and I'm hoping to have
Yes.
Bobby on on my show soon. Is called The Friendship Show. This is a project that I started before COVID times. That was like a live theatrical audience interactive show. And then when this all happened, I was like, oh, my friendship show. But then I was like, no, use that like adaptation, and I was like, I can still do this online, and this is how I'm gonna do it. So what I do is I interview a real life friend, and we do 15 minutes of friend, and I interview them on a certain facet of friendship, and then we do some improv about it. So we are inspired by our discussion, and we do some improv inspired by that. So that's on Tuesdays, 11:45 Pacific time. Yeah, the Friendship Show.
Awesome. And you guys can find that here on Facebook. Just Google The Friendship Show. They have their own page to it. Jill, where can we find more information about you and about Leela? What are your social handles?
Sure. Okay, so social handle. So website, of course, is great. So Leela, Leela dash, like a hyphen, SF, as in San Francisco.com. We're also on Facebook, Leela SF. We're doing our shows on Saturday nights at Leela SF. On YouTube, we stream them to YouTube. Yeah, so we're mostly on Facebook, and then I'm also on LinkedIn, Jill Eickmann, and then I'm with Bobby's help. You're gonna help me get on
Yes.
live, get active on Instagram.
Yes.
Get this Gen Xer on Instagram. Yes.
And this will also be uploaded to Instagram, and you can follow Jill on Instagram. She'll be tagged in the video, as well as at Jill Eickmann _actor. So follow Jill, keep up on all things happening in the improv world. Also in the business world, Jill's always sharing like new happenings and team buildings and just new ideas, very innovative. And I'm so glad to have you on the show today, Jill. So thank you for joining me for coffee. I can't wait to see everything amazing that's happening for you and Chris and Autumn. Like, it's going places. So I can totally see it and I totally feel it. For those of you watching today, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your day, enjoy your cup of coffee, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.